all get pretty excited when we travel to new places, and we get to go out mostly because, especially like when you go hiking, you're surrounded by nature, or when you go travel, etc. Because I know like when I do go out, I get pretty excited because I do admire wildlife and like just the natural scenery that it has. Earth has a very unique, beautiful value because it has many different endless amount of species, but we won't be able to enjoy these species as much if we continue to hurt them. So for example, like if bees were to go extinct, it wouldn't just be the bees, but like the crops that they pollinate. So today I want to inform you as in why these species benefit us and I also want to argue as to why we should protect them more. And there are many reasons as why we should protect these species, and especially the endangered ones. And 3 of reasons that I chose is because they give us, they sustain a healthy ecosystem. They provide medicine, and also they give the earth a beautiful aesthetic value. So before I go into those 3 points, I first want to mention how these species become endangered, or how we hurt these species. So these species go endangered usually because of like habitat destruction. For example, if we want to build new buildings like factories, theme parks, amusement parks, or like even waste sites. These, if we want to build these, we have to force these animals out from where they're adapted to living at. And so if we force them out, they will die off. Most of them will. As stated by Kaplan, she is a educator and a wildlife rehabilitator. She states that when humans change wildlife land, the land has changed. The species will die off. They can go to new areas, but there's already species in these areas, and so there's going to be competition, and species will still die because there's not enough food for animals in one area. And this is true because we're pushing them out from their homes, and so it's hard for them to like all of a sudden just be pushed out of their homes that they've lived in for so long and try to adapt to a new area. And so that's why these species, most of them die. But there are ways you can help to lessen the deaths of these animals. For example, like organizations. There's like online organizations. There's a lot of them. There's 2 that I remember, which is the Worldwide Fund for Nature and the Wildlife Conservation Society. So for the WWF, ways you can donate online. They give you a certain amount of money that you could donate. It's not just money, you could also like participate in their team. You could also speak out more about it with your friends. You can adopt an animal, and they give you like a plushie of the animal that you got or that you adopted. And for the Wildlife Conservation Society, I looked on their page, and ways that you can help is they have like different amounts of money that you could probably donate, from like very little to higher as you can. And if you do these things, like if you help these organizations, they're going to help out these animals to conserve them. And if you do this, one of the things that you could get back is that we'll maintain this healthy ecosystem. And so with having a healthy ecosystem is important, because if there's an animal that goes extinct in the food chain, this causes an imbalance, and you get like different other problems that we wouldn't need to have. So for example, like I mentioned, bees, if they do go extinct, it's not just the bees, but what they provide for Earth. So and bees are dying at a fast rate. As on CNN, they stated that bees are dying quicker due to climate change, habitat destruction, emergence of foreign pests, and also due to like due to like the chemicals and pesticides used on plants. But there are ways you can help. There are ways you can help lessen the death of these bees and help them. Like they're very easy ways. Like go into your local farmers market, for example. You could buy natural raw honey. You could leave some water out. Like if you have a garden, you could leave some water out for the bees if it attracts them. And try not to use like pesticides or chemicals on your plants. And this will greatly help the bees, and they'll appreciate it. And also, you could also even like send letters to Congress if you want, and tell them like if you have any ideas on how to a way you can try to conserve these species. Also, there is a study done that Brian Palmer stated in his science article, and he's part of the NRDC, which is the National Resource Defense Center, and he stated that there's a group of people who went out worldwide, and they found out that 87 of the crops were pollen dependent, while only 28 were not. So imagine if bees did go extinct, we wouldn't have the plants that they pollinate. And it's not just the bees that are going extinct. As stated by BBC, it's a page that provides expert analysis. They state that it's not just the bees that are going to extinct, it's the plants that they provide and the animals who depend on those plants, and so on upon the food chain. But like I mentioned, if we can have, or if we find out ways, if we do help these species, we can also still continue to have or find more cures, because they are helpful with medicine. They have a very huge contribution to medicines. For example, as stated by the Cooperational Health and Biodiversity, they said that biodiversity is a foundation of human health. So without biodiversity, well, virtually human health wouldn't be so healthy, because we depend on them to find medicines and such. Also, Carrie Bryan, she's part of a reset team who they try to find ways for a more sustainable future and stuff like that. And she mentioned how like species and landscapes are very have a huge contribution to, for example, like antibiotics, painkillers. And if a species did go extinct, this could possibly put in jeopardy a certain cure that they've been looking for a certain disease that they have. And so this is something that can happen if a certain species does go extinct, because every species plays a vital role. And so, like I said, if we do help these species, it's not just we'll be having a healthy ecosystem and medicines, but they also give a beautiful aesthetic value to Earth. And I'm pretty sure you guys don't want like a boring brown planet. I know it's not just me. When you go out, you like to see the tall green grass and the different colors of flowers and such, and everything that nature provides due to the species. So I know the American Phytopathological Society, they stated that landscapes and species should be conserved because they are beautiful and they enrich the lives of humans. And I agree a lot with that quote. I can relate to that quote because that's how nature makes me feel. I'm pretty sure you guys feel like that too when you go out and you just see or when you go hiking, you see the whole view of everything below you, and it's pretty great. It should be. And and these species, if you really enjoy the nature from Earth and everything that these species provide, because they give back to us so much, like clean water, fresher air, why shouldn't you guys help back? Since they're giving us so much, I believe we should all contribute a little to helping out these species who've given us a lot on Earth. And so we could still continue to enjoy the beauties and still continue to find more cures and have a healthy ecosystem.
Eva, what did you think?
I thought that at the beginning she had her 3 clear points, which was hurting species that benefit us, and protecting subspecies. I think that 2 suggestions that I would have for her to improve was basically the introduction. I don't know if it was just me at first. I thought she was going to talk about hiking, so I thought that basically it was just going to be hiking, but then she turns it around and talks about that it's about species, and now she wants to talk about having a healthy ecosystem, how they benefit us with medicine, and how it's an aesthetic value of Earth. What else? Well, I think that she had her resources like nicely put. She told us where she got her resource from, and I like the fact that at the end she told us about a quote and how it means for her to have the species being safe, I guess, like how she wants the earth to be green and not brown, and I thought that was pretty cool. That's it.
Okay. Well, the negative visualization is okay if you can convince us that that is in fact what we're going to have, and I think that might be a little bit of an overstatement with what you've got, although you do kind of present some grim possibilities if we lose all the bees. I think that that's the one place where you've got some information that suggests that we have a more widespread problem. I think that there's an underdevelopment of the loss of species. I didn't hear any information about what species have been lost, what are on the brink, what risks there are. It's all very generic in nature. If we destroy habitats, then species can't live there. And I'm going, okay, well, we destroy habitats all of the time. So have we wiped out species, or, for instance, are there habitats where those species still exist and we're not in competition with them? I don't know. It just feels like it's very generic in nature with the way you've described what the risk here is. I appreciate the goals that you have, telling us about how important the species are, and the idea that it's going to have an effect on the aesthetics of the world, that sort of thing, and the impact on the ecology. I think those are valid points, but they need to be developed a lot more, and they really feel highly abstract the way you're presenting them. One of the things, when you were talking about solutions on a couple of the points, you're suggesting that we support particular organizations. I'm wondering, well, how do those organizations help? What is it that the World Wildlife Federation does, or that the Wilderness Conservation Society does? I didn't really get much sense that they're going to stop human encroachment on these areas. We're still going to build building cities and factories and all that stuff. So how is donating to these particular groups make a difference? I didn't really get much explanation of that, and that felt a little bit underwhelming as a consequence. Presentation-wise, I noticed that you didn't have to rely on your notes, which was good, but you don't really look at us very much. You don't have any notes that you're looking at, but you have a tendency to kind of look down toward the ground as if that's where your notes are. You're thinking to yourself. I mean, I can tell you're just trying to remember what it is that you're going to say, but you're not really engaging the audience, and I think that hurts your ethos. You want to connect with us a lot more when it comes to that. I thought your voice was pretty good in conveying the empathy and the needs that you have there. The speech, like I said, could use a lot more examples and a little bit more research telling us how these problems can be solved and what it is that we're going to do about it. The idea that I'm going to fix the problem of the honeybees by putting out honey and not using pesticides in the backyard, I think that's a little thin, and it's mostly asserted on your part, and I think that that's a problem. We need something that's a little bit more substantive. Okay, thank you.